Virginia Tech closed out last season with a very successful end in the bowl game against Tulane. Are they going to be able to build off of that, though? After all, Brent Pry has been selling this baked goods to his players, and they're eating it all up. So evidently there's something in the water over there in Blacksburg. We're going to talk about what's going on over there.
We got a chance to do one thing that every team in the country can't do. We got a chance to step up, man. We got a chance to step on the ledge, you know what I mean? And to me, I think it's a free fall. To be elite, you got to think it's free fall. That means you can't be afraid to go to the edge. And Coach said, jump. You said, how far, Coach? Where you want me to go? Every guy got a chance to do that today. If you're elite, grab somebody today. Take him with you. There's no more average in this program. There's no more average in this program.
How is everybody doing today? I am Colin Bashnagel, the host here at Bash's College Football Show. You can find all my social media down below in the description. And what you guys should care about a whole lot more is commenting down below, as we are open for discussion about Virginia Tech, about any college football team that you want to talk about. So comment down below if you want me to do a video for a team. And also, if you like the video, like the video. I'd really appreciate it, as it boosts that algorithm. And you can also subscribe too if you want more of my content going forward. But enough self-promo. We're going to get into Virginia Tech here. And you get Brent Pry coming in with a team that is super experienced, super motivated, one that I'm super excited to talk about. And you got to talk about what they lost from last year's squad. And to me, they didn't lose much. Like, they didn't lose anybody going off to the NFL that they're really going to miss. The one that you could probably highlight is the interior guy, Norrell Pollard. But that's not one that you're going to lose sleep over. And then you're not going to lose sleep over anybody in the transfer portal. They're fine at wide receiver, so losing Dwayne Lofton to Oklahoma State, not that big of a deal, especially with Ali Jennings getting healthy. Then you lost Daquan Wright. Okay, that's probably the one that you probably really want back, because he would be the #1 tight end if he would have came back. He's off to Ole Miss. But again, when your wide receiver room is as good as it is, you're not necessarily going to be that upset over it. And then you also lost, like, Derek Canteen, who was a really good nickel corner for you, who's probably going to be one of the top 2 or 3 corners over at Cincinnati. Big time ad for Satterfield over there, but not a massive loss for Virginia Tech. Lost a starter, lost a good, maybe rotational type of player in Derek Canteen, but you're going to be fine at defensive back, and we're going to talk about that here in a minute. Now, as you talk about what Virginia Tech has on their current roster, Kyron Drones coming in with the stability at the starting quarterback spot, big time for Virginia Tech, because that's something they lacked going into last year. A lot of people thought it was going to be Grant Wells. Nobody really thought it would be Kyron Drones transferring in from Baylor, who got limited experience at Baylor ahead of being at Virginia Tech. Now, he comes in at Virginia Tech. When he starts playing and when he starts, he ends up going 17 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. His Achilles heel is hanging on to that football when he runs. Mobile, good athlete, but his ball security is poor. 10 fumbles last year, 5 of them he lost to the defense. That's got to get corrected. But he's definitely got a bell-tail back behind him. That is Bishal Tootin, who came in from a HBCU school and was really productive there and hit the scene in the Power 5 last year for the Hokies. And I expect a big year 2 for him as well coming into 2024. This wide receiver core is also really, really good. Certainly slept on with Daquan Felton and Jalen Lane back, but also, like I mentioned, Ali Jennings back from an injury. If you guys recall, Ali Jennings was a really good receiver for Old Dominion a couple of years ago, transferred into Virginia Tech last year and got hurt in, I believe, the 3rd game of the year. So he didn't get the full run that you could potentially get. And that is definitely something that Virginia Tech did miss last year, was that threat that could have been Ali Jennings on top of what they already had in Felton and Lane and even the guy that transferred in Lofton. Then you talk about the offensive line. A lot of experience coming back. Both Braden and Caden Moore are both back on the interior. You're going to bring in Montavious Cunningham from Georgia State, who played tackle at Georgia State. He's going to kick inside, battle for that starting job with Bob Schick. And Bob Schick was a guy that played a lot last year as well. And then the 2 tackles are certainly stable, with Xavier Chaplin coming back and Parker Clement. So overall, like, this offense returns everybody, and they're going to be really spanking good. And I would not sleep on what Virginia Tech has. The big key is going to be if Kyron Drones can keep that fumbling issue under control. On the defensive side of the ball, they added a couple of guys on the interior of the defensive line to definitely help. Aeneas Peebles, or Pebbles, whatever. Peebles. It's Peebles. from Duke, really good player, dominant interior guy. Gillum Jr. coming in from Oklahoma as well. Two guys that are going to help the edge guys, Antoine Powell-Ryland and also Cole Nelson, be able to absolutely shine on this defense. Then linebacker Alan Tisdale, he's back, and he's going to be alongside a more hybrid, like nickel linebacker type of player in Keontae Jenkins. And when you got that, and then you have Manzor Delane and Dorian Strong coming back at corner, you have a really solid group, or I should say a couple of safeties with Mose Phillips, a young kid that's still developing, but he's going to be a really good player. And then Jalen Stroman is also going to be really good at the safety spot. This Virginia Tech team is super duper promising. You don't really see too many holes with them. Probably their biggest weakness might be depth at like linebacker or depth on the interior of the defensive line. I'm not super worried about Virginia Tech. As long as they can stay healthy, they're going to be a threat in the ACC. I'm promising you that. So they're over-under sitting at 8 wins. And we're going to talk about whether or not they can achieve that goal this year. So the Virginia Tech Hokies, we're going to do this little prediction here going through the schedule, and we're going to start with the out-of-conference. They start on the road at Vanderbilt. A lot of people expect for Vanderbilt to be a little bit improved. Diego Pavia being over there from New Mexico State. I'm sorry, dude. I don't see it, especially with how good I think Virginia Tech could be. I'm taking Virginia Tech to win that game pretty easily. I think they beat Marshall and then a dangerous game at Old Dominion because I think Old Dominion is going to have one of their better seasons that they've had in recent memory, and they've beaten Virginia Tech in recent memory. It's going to be tough, but because of Virginia Tech's recent history with Old Dominion, I think Virginia Tech goes in there motivated, recognizes they're the better team. They take care of business. They sneak out and get a win at Old Dominion. Then I think they beat Rutgers. A lot of people are super high on Rutgers. I personally am not that high on Rutgers. I think that they're a good team, solid team. I made my video about Rutgers, but I don't think they're high enough to where they're going to go into Blacksburg and win. And in that Rutgers video, I had a comment saying, oh, Virginia Tech lost to Rutgers by 19 last year. Well, look at what happened in that game. Fumbles were an issue. Turnovers were a little bit of an issue, but also like Virginia Tech was not the same team then as they were to close out the season. Like that was one of, if not the first start that Kyron Jones had last year. They had their first game without Allie Jennings, I believe, in that one too. It's going to be a completely different game, and I'm not sure if Rutgers is that improved off of last year's team, but I am pretty sure Virginia Tech is, and they get it in Blacksburg. I think that this script is completely flipped, and you see it all the time. The logic of Team A beat Team B by, however many points, 19 points in this case, means they're going to win again this year. Malarkey. Absolute bogus right there, because I remember specifically, like you look at a home and home, Oklahoma, Ohio State, a handful of years ago. Ohio State goes into Norman. Remember, this is a home and home where they went into Norman. They go into Norman. They beat Oklahoma in Norman by 21 points, and it could have been worse. The next year, Oklahoma returns the trip and beats Ohio State by double digits in the shoe. This stuff happens. It changes year to year. So to act like Virginia Tech can't beat Rutgers at home because they lost to them by 19 when they were a completely different team, I don't buy that. I think they lose at Miami on a Friday night, though I don't think the fans will be out, obviously. I think that's, very obvious. I just think Miami's got a ton of talent. It's a tough spot. I think Rutgers will give Virginia Tech a pretty good game because I don't think Rutgers is a joke the way they used to be. But I think they're going to give them a tough game, a hard punch. They're going to be physical. I think Miami takes advantage of that in a short week for Virginia Tech with a little bit of a long trip down to South Beach. I'm taking Miami to win that game. And then I think a really close trap spot, but the long week and right before a bye week helps them prepare for an underwhelming Stanford team. I think they win on the road in Palo Alto with their first ACC game out west, with one of the 3 new additions out in Texas, in California Atlantic Coast Conference. Anyway, moving on, Boston College. Look, I am pretty decently high on Boston College. I think their offense has a chance to be really exciting. Nothing compared to what Virginia Tech's offense's potential is going to be, though. At home, off a bye, no problem here. I got Virginia Tech beating Boston College. Georgia Tech, also a team I think is going to be pretty solid with Haynes King coming back at the quarterback spot, who played pretty well last year, especially at times. And pardon my voice right there. I'm sorry about that. Nice little voice crack. I'm taking Virginia Tech to win, though. Again, I just think they're a better team, a lot deeper. And I think the difference in this game specifically is Virginia Tech has a heck of a secondary, and Georgia Tech hasn't proven to have a great defense at all. At Syracuse, tough spot right here. Tough road game. I think especially if Syracuse does continue to build up that hype, Syracuse wins this game and beats Virginia Tech, who, if you count it up to this point, Virginia Tech going into that game would be, what, 7-1? So that'd be a massive win for Kyle McCord and Fran Brown and Syracuse there. And I think they're going to get it done in the Carrier Dome. And then Clemson comes into town in Blacksburg with ACC championship ramifications on the line. Survival mode for both teams. And I think Virginia Tech's experience gets it done against likely a more talented Clemson team. Again, I did a video on Clemson. A lot of people did not like the fact that I had Clemson going and being the way that I predicted them to be. You got to prove me, Clemson. And winning on the road against a good team who I think is going to be a really good team in Virginia Tech, that's how you're going to be able to prove it. I got Virginia Tech winning that game off the bye, a dangerous spot against a little bit of an unknown with Manny Diaz, who I think is going to be a pretty good coach there. Malik Murphy coming in at quarterback. But they just lost so much talent. And at a place like Duke, when you lose that much, it is a lot harder to replace on the football field. I'm taking Virginia Tech to win that road game pretty handily. I have them beating Virginia, despite the fact that I do think Virginia will be improved. And overall, I have the Hokies going 10-2, 6-2 in conference, and it may be good enough to make the ACC championship. But the problem with the 8 conference games, as I've well broadcasted, is we could get like 2 or 3 teams that didn't play each other that are also going to go 6-2. So is Virginia Tech going to get in the ACC championship? Maybe, maybe not. But why this stuff is important is because of the fact that if Virginia Tech is 10-2, 6-2 in conference, they miss out against, let's say, just a random example. I know I didn't predict it this way, but like North Carolina. North Carolina loses an out-of-conference game, wasn't on Virginia Tech's schedule. They go 6-2. Florida State goes like 7-1 or something. How are you going to punish like a Virginia Tech for having a 10-2 football season, who is 1 win away from the college football playoff, with some BS tiebreaker? I just don't see it personally. Why anybody would do this? But hey, this might be the year we get to see a team like a Virginia Tech or a North Carolina or an NC State or somebody like that in the ACC potentially get screwed out of a 1-game shot to make the college football playoff. Maybe you see that, and if we do, that'd be a travesty. But with that being said, that concludes this video, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.